afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. It is Tuesday afternoon. It is 3:23 on the West Coast. I am Matt. I'm sitting here with Doug. It is Enforcing the Fundamentals. We're sitting here talking sports and coaching and hockey and development. But I think at this point, we got to touch on the NHL playoffs. Could be the last night tonight, the last game of the season. Entirely possible. It's game 6, Florida at Edmonton. They've made the long journey north. Do you think they got a 7th game in them, Doug, or what are you thinking here?
No, they're in Florida, Matt.
Are
They're
they
in Florida. Yeah, they're in Florida.
Oh yeah, look at that. I definitely had a little bit of the dyslexia there. Yep, that's exactly what's going on.
If one of
there.
them's in Edmonton, there's going to be big trouble.
I mean, it'd be a hell of a breakaway.
Yeah.
Just put the little plastic goalie in the net. It'll be fine. What could go wrong?
Yeah.
So they're down in the Florida
Sun.
Yeah,
that's what Edmonton needs is for Florida to put a plastic goalie in. That's for sure. So they're having a hard time. Florida's goaltending has been pretty good, but I don't know. It seems to be, they lost at home the other night, and they just Florida seems to be just very, very strong playing on the road. They just play so simple, so hard, and so aggressive. They give you no room. They've got no space. Edmonton can't really generate a whole lot of neutral zone speed, and a good part of their game is, as you know, McDavid and other of their players is coming through with speed through the neutral zone and attacking, but Florida seems to have taken a lot of that away from them. So they seem to actually do it better in Florida than they do, in Edmonton. So maybe there's a hope tonight. I'm hoping there's a hope tonight. I'm still one of them Canadians out there hoping for the last 20 years. So.
It's been a bit of a.
Edmonton's got to find some way to generate speed getting through the neutral zone. So, and I don't think it's the long pass. It's going to, because Florida's very prepared for that. So we'll see. We're hoping.
Right. So you're. Let's put you on behind the bench for Edmonton. You're obviously. You're down in the Florida Sun. Apparently, that didn't work out for one of their traveling reporters too well. He may have spent a little bit too much time on South Beach.
I hadn't heard that, but that doesn't surprise me. Maybe during the Stanley Cup playoffs, but then again, it's a reporter. They can pretty well do whatever they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you, South Beach is wild, man. It's tough to stay away, especially if work's paying for the hotel and everything. You don't even have to go to South Beach. Just enjoy the amenities of Miami. It's a fun place to be, let me tell you. But I mean, obviously the players probably shouldn't be out there doing that, but the reporter may have a little bit of free time to explore or just sit around the pool at the hotel.
Well, it's easy for reporters at this time of the year. I mean, they don't have to follow 7 or 8 hockey games every night and try to figure out what they're going to say about every little piece of this and that. They've got 2 days to prepare, which 2 days to prepare for a reporter, unless you're running around trying to find some behind the scenes activities. It's should be pretty work, at least I would think. I know as a coach, you can stay very focused if you've got to play the same team for 2 weeks. So what would I do if I was if I was the Edmonton coach? I don't know. You know what? You hate to say this, but everybody's got to up their game to what their game is, and Florida's pretty well physically taking away what the best part of their game has been over the season, or when they're playing well. It's tough, and it's it's playoffs. It's do you have enough to bring your game up a little bit more? But I was listening to one sports broadcaster who's an ex-NHLer saying that he thinks the problem is McDavid's got to up his game. Oh my God, his game is so far ahead of everybody else's. I don't know how many times you can up it, but he always seems to manage to find a way. I mean, you look at that series this winter in the Foreign Cup. He sure did up his game, certainly for the final game, and he's done that in all those situations where they're just about to be eliminated. I mean, you look at the Edmonton going down by 3 games, and then McDavid just literally taking over the whole series. And I just, you can't keep expecting one guy or two guys to up their game. The whole team has got to up their games a little bit, not count on one guy. And I don't think that's a real problem at Edmonton. I mean, they're all trying. The question is, trying is one thing and doing is the other. And when Florida wants to shut them down and give them nothing, they throw the puck in deep, go in and hammer away. And their forechecking system is really set up to give you no space. And if you can't make that first early breakout pass, then you don't generate any momentum. Everybody's picked up and covered, other than every once in a while you can get that long pass. And I'm talking long passes, a defenseman position pass to a forward on the other side of center ice. And you're hoping to catch defensemen, but they're not. They're not catching defensemen out of position with Florida. So, I think they have a good chance to win tonight. But they've got to find other ways to be successful. If they're going to be able to take these 2 games back to back, and that's what they got to do. And I'm hoping they can. Probably along with half a million, a couple other million hockey fans. So
yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations where the hopes of Canada are riding on the Edmonton Oilers for the most part. I mean, obviously, there's some people that just will not change which color laundry they're cheering for. So if they are, usually you find it in Calgary. They have a hard time cheering for Edmonton. Even though they are provincial buddies. You would think that they'd be at least support the interprovincial, but no, that seems to be a problematic thing. But I think you see that in a lot of sports. It doesn't matter, look at the look at baseball. You could have the Mets and the Yankees in the one of them in the World Series, and those other people on the other end of that Subway Series are like, no, fuck those guys. So it's a problem. The laundry is a problem for some people. They just will not turn on it. There's some interesting stuff has popped up this week that sort of flooded about one particular player. He is not necessarily known as an ambassador of goodwill and a stickler for the rules. But Brad Marchand he's got some stats coming out this week. He is currently second only to Gordie Howe in most goals scored in the playoffs, and Gordie's way out in front. Gordie has 53, but Marchand just passed Alex Delvecchio, and he now has 36. And Henry Richard is with 33, Delvecchio 35, Marchand 36. Gordie is way out in front with 53. So that one is... Gordie may hang on to that one for a while.
What you have to consider, well, he did hang around a lot. You know what you also have to consider in the cases of those older guys with those points? What playoff performers they were, because, they only had 2 rounds of playoffs. They didn't have 4.
Right.
So, you got to look at, holy mackerel, half the games. Does it tell you how many games that they played for those numbers?
I do not have that particular stat right in front of me at this point, so I'll see if I can look that up. But of course, that might be
interesting to see,
Yeah.
But Brad Marchand, I'm a Nova Scotianer too, so I should be cheering for him. but how he embarrassed and whipped the Canucks out of their Stanley Cup has always made me feel just a
Yep.
little bit like I don't like that guy very much. But he is such a performer. I mean, he
Yes.
went to Florida, and one of his press things saying, I'm moving to a team that I don't even know if I can make the lineup, is before he actually got there. And I have no idea who I'm going to be playing with or whether I'm going to get any ice time to be of any value. And he is. He is certainly, if not the top player on Florida. He's got to be one of the, because he scores the incredibly important goals. Like the turnaround goal, or the 1-1, the one goal that gets you, out in front and closes a door. And he's been doing that for most of the playoffs that he makes it through. I don't know what happened to Boston those years. They had those really good teams and didn't make it, very far in the playoffs. But Brad Marchand and their goaltending killed the Vancouver Canucks. And Brad Marchand didn't just kill it on goals; he killed it on attitude. His attitude was so bad towards the Canucks, it killed him.
That Boston team was a wrecking ball. That was very physical. The fans are starting to roll in. Jeff, how's it going, buddy? Keith, thank you for stopping by. Let's take a look at a couple of other stats here that Marchand has put up. So he has got 7 goals so far this year in the playoffs, 10 assists, 2 game-winning goals this year on top of his 3 others. So I believe he is number 1 in game-winning goals at this point for the playoffs. For the playoffs, he's got a plus 14, and that's just this year. So let's take a look at some of his other stats. He's got 36 shorthanded goals, which puts him first. He's got a plus minus of 284 all time. Wow. So that's
284.
That's a pretty good. That one seems suspect to me. I may have to look into that one a little bit further.
Well, he was playing on. Boston was certainly in this era been one of the incredible teams, and he was a lead player. Probably saw a lot of power play time in Boston, where it gives you that extra plus that's in there. So, he's the guy I love to hate.
Well, that you're probably not the only one. He's well over 1,000 games played. He's got 422 some odd goals. I think I'm looking at a very old stat here is what I'm looking at. But he's not, you hear his name sometimes and you just think, you're not the best fan. You think, okay, he may not be the cleanest player out on the ice, but he's got the stats to back it up. He's not just out there, smashing and grinding guys
player
down.
I love to hate since the Vancouver, out of the Stanley Cup winning performance. I mean, Vancouver was ahead 3-0 in that series, and
and they got hit by
their goaltending, and Brad Marchand carried them for 4 straight wins onto a Stanley Cup. So, like I said, I wouldn't say all time, but he's a player I love. I love that kind of a player. He plays, he's not huge. He's just incredibly hardworking. He's incredibly tenacious. I'd like to bite his finger, but we had the chance and we didn't. So. Kudos to him. Kudos to his whole career.
Let's take a look at another interesting stat here. Here is a list of most postseasons with 10-plus points. Wayne Gretzky and Mark Messier both have 14. John Beliveau with 11. Jágr, Paul Coffey, and Glenn Anderson all come in with 10. Nicholas Lidstrom, Jari Kurri, and Brad Marchand all have 9.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't think you will be because I'm not that far out of touch. Brad Marchand's the only one that can still move that up a little bit. Everybody
That's right.
else is long retired, and
Yep.
that is an
How many people want to
wonderful.
see Brad Marchand playing in another 8 playoff years?
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean,
you
he
know,
needs 5 to get in there with Wayne and Mark. But I mean, I'm looking at this list as well, and I'm thinking that's the Oilers dynasty has really done this. Curry, Anderson,
Yes.
I believe Coffey was in there early on, was he not? Coffey was an
Yes.
Oiler.
Yes, he was. Yes.
He was in
Sure
that dynasty, and then right up at the top, Messier and Gretzky.
Mhm.
And then Coffey had the benefit of also playing in that era of Pittsburgh when they were just shooting the lights out as well. So, I mean, you can knock Brad Marchand for maybe not being the cleanest player
Nice
on the
person.
ice, but he is he's definitely a threat no matter how you cut it, whether it's him, hammering down the ice or, just hoping that the linesman or the ref is not paying attention to what he is about to do to you. But he's still going to be that fucking aggravator that's like, okay, what do you mean he just fucking scored 2? Son of a bitch. And that's so. I would think that the Oilers first and foremost have to do something about Marchand. I mean,
well, there's one player in there that they've got to shut down even more so than Marchand. So
okay.
It's those 2 guys have killed them. The players that you thought would give the Oilers the hard time, they did in last year's series. Haven't really. I mean, it's a whole 2 new to the forefront players for Florida right now.
So who else who they need to shut down?
Oh God.
I mean, other than okay, so without locking the dressing room door.
No, locking the dressing room is a good idea. Throw up a steel bar and put a lock on it that you can't break with just chain breakers. So no, Edmonton can do it. They just have to find a way to push through that, like I said, getting into the offensive zone and creating plays. And the problem is getting into the offensive zone with some control. And Florida's defensive shut Edmonton down, I would say, pretty good as far as one-on-one down the ice goes. So they have to get some numbers, and they need their shooters to score. My favorite kid, one of my favorite kids growing up is Ryan Nugent Hopkins. I'd like to see him score some goals. It's some of those other guys have got to, and that, I mean, the whole team played so well in the comeback against LA, and they can do that again. And they played so well against Dallas, and again, and they had lots of secondary scoring in those series. We're not getting the scoring from, McDavid had his first goal in this series.
Internet, there we go.
So
you cut out for a minute there mid-thought. You want to maybe just run that one back real quick?
Uh-oh. How old am I? You want me to run a thought back? Give me a break. No, I'm just saying the secondary scoring has got to happen tonight. Edmonton can win this game. They can win this series, but they've got to break some of the chains, that have been holding them back. They've got to find a way to get to the neutral zone without dumping the puck in or without being boxed out in a corner. Their power plays, when they get set up, they move the puck really well, but it's they've got to find a way to be 5-on-5 and have some dominant ice time in the offensive zone, and they can do it. Will they do it is the other thing. So,
well, I mean, Jeff's coming in here with the opinion that the Edmonton needs to keep it close or score first. If they go down 2 goals, Jeff doesn't see him having much of a chance after that.
Jeff, I think you're right on, buddy.
And I think he's got another point here. Game 6 could be the last game of the season. Florida's going to be rocking loud down there because they do know how to party.
They do. They do know how to party.
Jeff and I have a mutual acquaintance from our vacations that gets really good tickets for wrestling a lot of the times. And the other day, I don't know if Jeff saw it. I happened to notice that he had got really good tickets to, I think it was Game 4.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
And
that would have been the
not good up with the waiter service and all that. Good down next to the glass. So. Yeah.
Anyway, it's been such a close series, and I think Edmonton's got to find a mental way to break Florida down in the offensive zone a little bit, because a lot of goals that they've been getting in the playoffs from the secondary players are not there in this series. So I think, you know what, it's like anything else. Everybody's got to bring their best game tonight, or they're going golfing tomorrow, and they're in the right place for it.
Oh, Florida. Absolutely in the right place if you want to look at it that way. I shudder to think what the coaching and management staff would have to say if they found out a couple of the guys brought their golf clubs with them, though.
That's happened, Matt.
I believe it.
That's happened. No. I've been around in playoffs when you're down 3-1 and trying to get back in a series and playing it away, and all of a sudden, you're giving up the fourth game, but that's okay. I'm going to stay an extra 3 days in golf in Florida.
I'm not saying I don't see why.
You got to smuggle those golf clubs in, boy. There are a lot of good golfers playing hockey. I have a lot of kids that were really good hockey players in juniors and played some minor pro that have gone on to be very good golfers, both at an amateur standing and even some at a professional standing. Grant Fuhr was a great golfer. He you know what? He used to do a little golfing in Victoria when we were there before the beginning of the season, because Victoria has a pretty long golf season too. But
yep,
yeah, a lot of good golfers playing.
Jeff is looking for some energy and pride. You're looking for a little fire behind those uniforms to kick off the game. I don't think that's much of a choice. I don't think laying back and hoping Florida makes a mistake is a good strategy.
No, they got to go get it.
That's
when they're the best that they can be, when they're out making plays. Florida hasn't given them any room, no room at all. You watch the game, you watch a guy touch the puck. As soon as he hits the offensive zone, within 2 to 3, probably not even 3, 2 seconds, he's facing a body. He's being taken out. He's been taken down. And in the Stanley Cups, the referees, I wouldn't say they throw away the rule book, but there's certainly a little more leeway, you think? Yeah, a lot more leeway than what they would normally do, because so much is dependent on it. I mean, what they don't want is a series dictated by a referee who called penalties, whether they're right or wrong, influencing $100 million playoff series. And that's what these playoff series are.
I mean, I think if you look over at the NFL, you see that the refs seem to cost games a lot. And that's really not even that's pinning the ref as the scapegoat. If
they're probably calling the rules,
if it's not against the rule, if it's against the rules, then the ref's job is to enforce that. If it's if they're gonna make a call, they at least have to be consistent, because you're gonna see this. I mean, God, you see it every time any major sport plays the second that penalty comes up, that infraction gets called, however it's done, whether it's yards, or it's somebody's off the ice, or however they do it in whatever sport we're talking about, you get that moment of, okay, well, now you got a free shot, now you got a free kick, you're down one man, you just got moved back, and that was it. And then you see the fans, the refs ruined this for us. The refs are on the take, and that's
And
ridiculous.
you know what? Being a hockey guy, when it comes to playoffs and big situations, hockey referees put away their whistles. They do.
Hmm.
They put them away. They don't want to be faulted for the loss in this. A guy turns around and pushes somebody in the face or hammers them in the face in the front of the net. And,
Hmm.
during the regular season, that'd be good for two and you're gone. And it just doesn't get called, and lots of series have been turned for the aggressive team. I think aggressive teams have an advantage in Stanley Cup playoffs because they
Hmm.
get away with a whole lot more. And, not that an NHL hockey player should be intimidated by any other player on the other team, but they're real people. It happens. And
Yeah, I mean, and then
coaches know it too.
sometimes there can be a massive size difference as well. I mean,
Mhm.
let's be honest here. It, and I'm going to pull the one of the smaller players I know out of the past. If you put a Theo Fleury on the ice next to a Zdeno Chara,
Mm-hmm.
he would be stupid not to be a little bit intimidated. You know what I mean? And Fleury was a bad stick of wood. He was a tough guy. He will go there, but when you have to look all the way up,
Well, you
and
got to
it,
climb a ladder to throw a swing here.
yeah,
You're
exactly.
a
I
little
mean,
disadvantaged.
so I
Yeah.
mean, and that's just it. I mean, there's a size disadvantage. I mean, even a play style disadvantage. I mean, you have a couple of stories from way back in the day where a more skilled player, and I don't want to paint everybody with a brush, but usually a little bit smaller, a more skilled player is going to be a little more intimidated by a player that's kind of there just to, well, not just to, but his role is to be that enforcer, to be that wall in front of the net, or to make sure that if you go into the corner, you may not come out until after you pulled yourself out of the third row.
Mhm.
Um, so they,
Yeah,
and it's,
but
I
that
would,
that that is a way back, and I mean it's changed a lot since those days because there was guys there that were enforcers that could barely skate at certainly not skate at an NHL level.
mhm,
Um, so I That's changed. No player in the NHL, even the big enforcer, physically tough guys, either have to be very mentally sharp or skilled sharp.
mhm,
And a very mentally sharp player is one who's never out of position, never gives up any kind of an advantage in terms of either pursuit or trying to acquire a puck along the boards. He's not necessarily the skilled player that they're expecting to, uh, score, you know, 2 goals a game or get a couple assists a game. He's there to make sure that the other team doesn't get an advantage in terms of scoring when he's on the ice. The
mhm,
best thing you can say about a fourth line is not that it gets the least amount of ice time, but it doesn't give up goals. That's what you want in your third and fourth lines. And
mhm,
your third line can score a couple of goals. Your first and second lines, they're splitting those nowadays where it used to be pretty well teams put their three best players on the ice together.
mhm,
And teams became so defensively conscious that you really couldn't do that anymore because they defended them well, and you exposed your second line to their second line. Like
mhm,
there's lots of game situations where I know as a coach you try to figure out if my third line's on the ice and their third line's on the ice, can we win? You know, I think our first line is a goal better. I think their second line is a goal better than ours. What can my third line do? Can my third line shut them down, or my fourth line shut them down? You know, and then maybe once in a while create a goal, because you figure your first or second line should be good for 3 to 4 points a game. You know, you don't figure that for your third and fourth. You figure your third and fourth to be able to put out to not give up any goals, and therefore it comes back to just who your talented players are against their talented players. And if that were the situation, Edmonton should be looking pretty good.
Hmm.
But it's, you will see through most of the series they've split Draisaitl and McDavid up, simply because Florida comes out and checks a shoot
Hmm.
out of them when they're on the ice together. You know, like it's all five guys are playing defense. They don't care about whether they're going to get a goal opportunity. So,
Hmm. I mean,
so
sometimes you
I'm
need.
reading here. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So Jeff is saying, yeah, dump and chase doesn't work against Florida. McDavid and
yep,
Draisaitl seem to be
right.
the only Oilers who can carry the puck into the zone, and he agrees with you that Nugent Hopkins needs
Well,
to find another gear. I
all of those secondary players. Let's say the next top four players on Edmonton really, you know, you can say McDavid's got to play better, but how much better can the guy play? He's got three guys on him all the time.
Mhm.
Uh, one guy trying to tie him up and slow him down, one guy trying to take a piece of him, the other guy taking the piece of him, and he still beats that, you
Yeah.
know. So, but that doesn't give you a whole lot of opportunity when, you know, that's like going out onto the ice and putting David on the ice all by himself at one end of the ice and with five Florida players on there. Uh,
Mhm.
McDavid and Draisaitl, when they're playing together, it spreads that out a little bit more. That's when they get some pretty good opportunities. But, you know, guys like, well, there's quite a few guys. There's 4 or 5 guys on Edmonton that are capable of creating more offense. And I think the secret to tonight's game is guys like, you know, well, like Ryan. I hate to keep picking on Ryan, but I had Ryan as a hockey player when
Mhm.
he was a kid, so I love him. His whole family are just awesome people. So, but you know, he look at the series he had with it. Who was it? Oh God, Dallas
Yep.
and Los Angeles. I mean, and Evander Kane is the other one too. Evander was not my favorite young hockey player when he was a kid, but hey guys, he was just as bad as a kid as he is now. But
Okay.
he's an intense player, and the thing about him is sometimes he will push his intensity to the other side of the middle line, and then he spends time in the penalty box and he gets aggravated, and he needs to be settled in, focused, just as strong and aggressive, and get to the net, because he's the other player I think on there that can help. And like I said, there are more players there that can do that, and I think maybe with their back against the wall tonight, maybe they can do
Mhm.
it. Well, not maybe. I hope they can, but we'll see.
Well, it's an interesting turn of phrase that you just said they're back against the wall. The Oilers actually have their back against Stuart Skinner tonight. He got the nod. That's all over the news right now. So
Yeah,
Edmonton is starting, I guess, a fresh goalie. He seemed to have been pulled out a couple games ago,
he's a
and
good goaltender, but he's either great or he's okay, and he needs to be great.
mhm.
And his okay games, they're killers, you know.
Well, I mean, it's
So, and
there's
you know, me as a coach, I would agree with going
mhm,
back to that, because he's the more skilled goalie, maybe capable of handling one of my other kids from Vancouver.
mhm.
Florida has Sam Reinhart. Sam was a great kid. What a hockey family that is. Their dad played in the NHL. We did some spring hockey with them, and it always seemed to come down to their minor hockey association was playing against the hockey association I was coaching with at the time for playoffs for like 3 or 4 years in a row. So I know all the Reinhardt boys. They're all really good hockey players, and their dad was a great hockey mind. I mean, he was a pretty skilled NHL defenseman. So of the day, had he not been quite as injury prone, I think he'd have had, a little closer to a Hall of Fame career. He was pretty exceptional player. But yeah, Sam Reinhart is he's the other guy that, he doesn't seem to be there, and then he gets fired up, and if he has a chance to score a goal, he scores a goal. So it's tough. Florida's got some players.
Yep. Let's see here. I'm just going through our hockey headlines here while I'm waiting for this page to load. I think goalies get a little too much shit for losing games sometimes, because someday it does. You pick your Hall of Fame goalie. You pick your whoever you want. You call on your Hassicks. You call on your Drydens, you call on your Waz, you call on anybody you want.
Yep.
But
call on your Fuhrers and call on your Billy Ramfords.
If nobody is able to keep the puck either out of the zone or from coming off the other team's sticks, you're only going to stop so many. I mean, you might let in 8 goals, but if you faced 120 shots, it's still a very impressive game. And that's just one of those things. You'd say, "Oh, well, they lost by 6." I'm like, yeah, nobody in front of them was keeping the puck out of the zone. There was they served them. It was the 6 jerseys on the ice turned that into one jersey on the ice that may have well have been that plastic goaltender you strung up between the net after you bought it at Canadian Tire. There's only so much anybody can do.
And goaltenders, if you're a player, you can have a bad game and nobody's going to see. If you're a goaltender, if you have a bad game, everybody sees.
Oh, absolutely.
So everybody has an opinion. They'll watch you play 3 or 4, good games in a row, and then the first 2 shots you let go between your legs in the first period of the next game, and everybody's crying to trade you and find a goalie. So goalies have it hard. They really have it.
It is absolutely brutal. I mean, these guys, for the most part, they step on the ice and that's it. They don't get off the ice till the period's over. Obviously, there are some exceptions to that. You get pulled, you get whatever, but you have a spotlight on you. It doesn't matter what's going on in front of you. If you got 5 guys that can't figure out what the little black thing is doing, you're just going to be doing the absolute best you can. You can stand on your head like it's the Matrix or you're Spider-Man. You're doing everything you can, but the second it goes in, the fans just seem to turn on that goaltender. It is brutal. And I think it is one of those things that also leads towards the fact that, goalies sort of have a reputation of being, what's the word I'm looking for? Fucking nuts.
That's why they're nuts, is everybody is on them all the time.
I mean, and absolutely. Yeah, Jeff agrees. Goalies definitely have a tough job. It's nuts enough to go, you know what I think my favorite thing to do is I'm going to stand over here and I'm going to let them shoot this little plastic thing at me as hard as they can. That is the beginning of it. And then it is just ridiculously pressure is just absolutely ridiculous from the get-go. There's very rarely a time where the goalie is probably not feeling the most pressure on the team, where it's like, okay, because I'm in the spotlight, I'm standing right here, and it very rarely is it's just the goalie and the attackers. I mean, breakaways happen, absolutely happen all the time, but for the most part, there are other jerseys that are going to be between that goaltender and that puck.
Yeah.
It's the amount of times that you see these one-on-one breakaways, or it's a very small percentage. I mean, I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but usually if the
Nowadays,
goalie's there's help in front of him.
yeah, yeah,
And you don't
very.
see these games going. It was 10-0. The goalie let everything in, and there wasn't, and it was all 10 breakaways, and it was one-on-one. You got beat every time.
Oh, can I go back to a story,
Yeah,
Matt?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That's what
Dave
it's
Reese,
about.
Dave Reese, you see, it wasn't all that bad. Dave Reese was my goalie when I played in university. And Dave Reese played for the Boston Bruins. And Dave Reese was the goalie when the Toronto Maple Leafs, Daryl Sittler, got 10 points in that one game. So,
Oh.
Dave, kudos. You made it to the NHL. You know, that he was a pretty good goaltender. And
Mhm.
but yeah, you see, I don't remember hearing much about Dave after that. As a matter of fact, you know,
Well,
career
I mean,
gone.
that
And it couldn't have been all his fault.
no, it couldn't have been all his fault. And sometimes, like, oh well, so and so scored on you. It's like, well,
Uh-huh.
fuck, it's so and so. I mean, we were talking a while back when Ovechkin, caught up to Gretzky's record, broke the goals record, and all that. And there was only 7 goalies he had played against that he had not scored on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to take that into account too. Is
Most of those were backup goalies.
it only counted if they were on
Not
the ice
all of
with
them,
him.
but
Yeah,
most of them. Yeah.
yeah.
Because
So,
they didn't play much against him. But anyway, let me finish my Dave Reese
yeah,
story.
go.
We used to talk a little bit amongst players from that day, and when that happened, one of the guys was talking to me, and he says, "Oh, did you hear the latest about?" Oh, this is not a really good joke. Sorry, Dave, if you're listening. Did you hear the latest about Dave? I said, "Well, no. Why? What's the matter?" Well, he felt so bad about the 10-point game he gave up to Daryl Sittler that he tried to commit suicide. And I said, "Oh God, is he okay?" He says, "Yeah, he decided to commit suicide by going down to the railroad tracks, and he went and stood in the middle of the railroad tracks. But fortunately, the train went right between his legs." Bad joke. Bad joke.
You know what? And if you are
No.
struggling with mental health, please reach out to somebody.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That was a bad joke
it,
for
it,
old teammates to be passing around about you.
well, I mean, still, if you're not busting balls, you probably don't like the guy that much. It's just the way locker rooms and people are. I know if I don't like you, I'm not going to spend a lot of time joking around, busting your balls and whatnot. However, if I do, it's gonna infuriate some younger generation. It's like, why are you picking on that man so much? I'm like,
Yeah.
who, him? He deserved it. What do you do? Woke up? I don't know.
No,
it's a preemptive strike because he's gonna get me back in 10 minutes.
it is. I mean, I'm pretty sure. I know for me, I was pretty, proud to say that he had played in Vermont. He was
Mm-hmm.
a little hard to get along with because he was a regular goalie and he was a good
Mm-hmm.
one, and they're harder to get along with. But proud of his accomplishments to make it to the NHL in the mid '80s is pretty
Yep.
special. So
That was a hard time to be a goalie in the NHL. It
yeah,
was the rule structure back then was really allowing some of these big name Hall of Famers to just rack up the points. And it's not just Gretzky or Messier. I mean, you had Yzerman, you had Lemieux. I mean, it was a who's who, and you were a target. You might as well have just had a bullseye in the center of your chest. Let's see here. Jeff has commented, going back a little bit. Catchers in baseball have to be a little bit fucked up too. Absolutely. It's like, yeah. Yeah,
Hey,
swing that fastball at me. 110, not a problem. I got
yeah,
this. Yeah,
well, the problem with a catcher, and I did a little catching as a baseball player, a little bit, and it was a great fear. Is I was told, okay, our catcher's hurt. I was mostly first base and pitching, but I held on to a ball pretty well. You're going to catch tonight. Is the foul tips? Those tips that just move the ball 4 or 5 inches, and they're like getting shot with bullets. So kudos to catchers too, and I'm glad they did an improvement in equipment. So
Yeah. We might have to get into baseball a little further down the road about that because the catchers
yeah,
get that little foul tip, and then plus you're just sitting there, and I know there's space, but still there's a dude swinging a piece of wood right near your head. Like that is a bizarre place to be. Jeff's here. You had to be tough and really good in that era of hockey. Yeah. So back in the day, back in the pre-helmet era, shall we say? So
been there, done that.
we've done a lot of talking about Ryan Nugent Hopkins, who I instinctively, just because I'm more of a music guy at certain points in my life, I keep wanting to call him Ted. Apparently, he missed the practice Monday. It sounds like the coaching staff are, giving him they're calling it managing his workload. I'm thinking this screams to me.
He's had an injury, and I think he's had an injury since the Dallas series.
There you go.
He was just on fire all playoffs this year, and it just seemed to slow down. He didn't. Then he missed a game and a couple of practices, and yet he's back in the lineup. We're not going to know that until I'll find out. I'll call his brother. No, I won't. I won't. But I just, I'm just. There's 2 games left. I don't know what he can do, but I know that he can be the difference.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Evander Kane staying out of the penalty box, he can be a difference for Edmonton. Not that a lot of the other guys can't, but those are the 2 that have amazing capabilities. So I say about Evander, he just gets so pumped up all of a sudden. He just starts swinging and whacking and hacking. And as soon as the referees see that, he's never going to get away with a penalty. Referees don't like him at all. And that's too bad.
I mean, and that's just one of those things where if you have that kind of a reputation, the refs are going to be looking at you.
Yeah, they sure are.
Right? I mean,
but you're never nice to them in the good situations.
Yeah.
He's nasty to everybody.
Well, I mean, there's something to be said for consistency, but at the same time, you don't necessarily want to be drawing those kind of eyes on you.
Yeah.
Either, because it will take away some of your effectiveness. Tell me if I'm wrong here.
No, you're 100% right.
But
I mean, even in junior hockey, referees know who the players that they have to watch are, and they don't want those players to get out of control. So once you've established that reputation, there's no leniency for you. I personally know that.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that one day too. But yeah, I mean, it's very simple. Of like, I'm not taking any fucking shit off of you this week, Harding. I'm watching you like a hawk. You tap one toe out of line, and you're gonna be sitting in that box so hard, so fast, your head will be spinning, sort of deal, and that will take away your effectiveness.
Yeah,
I mean, it might open up something for somebody else to go, hey, he's looking at Doug, quick, get him in the calves when he's not looking, something like that. But I mean, we're well past that at this point. The other thing I wanted to say as I was leading into the Nugent Hopkins was what that situation. No, that's fine. It screamed either he's got something physical with him, he's got something injured or bothering him. And you're telling me that it looked like he maybe lost a step there. Okay. Or maybe he's just he's stuck in 6th or 7th gear. He's just running. They need him to. We need you to. You're not coming to practice. You're going to go down to South Beach. You're going to sit on the beach for the day. You're going to fucking relax. You need to fucking relax because you're too tightly wound right now. We need you just a little bit looser. We need you to get your
I'm
head.
not sure it's a mental thing. He's a
Nope.
very, very strong mental player. He's got something physically wrong with him, and he's pushing to the point that that's probably aggravating whatever physically is wrong with him. So, I mean, I've known him since he was 9 years old, and that's just his personality. He has fun and works his way through everything. Doesn't matter what it is, he works his way through it. And if he has a fairly inhibitive physical injury, like a calf muscle or a shoulder or a wrist or something, like, he's not going to set it down. He's just going to play with it. But you can't play with the same amount of strength if it's not there.
No. I mean, it's you just look at anybody. If you wake up and your shoulder is messed up,
but that's my guess, that there's something physically inhibitive, and
that sounds fair.
Can come in after that. You're pissed off at yourself because you should be doing better, or you want to do better.
Well, I mean, especially when this is the kind of situation where that might creep. If it's going to creep in, I mean, it's the perfect storm right now for him or anybody. We're singling him out like nobody else has played a game or got a bump or a bruise or a pulled muscle or a sore shoulder, their knees bothering them. Both these teams are going to be beat up. This is widely acknowledged. I've never heard anybody argue it that the NHL's playoffs are like the Stanley Cup is physically the hardest trophy to win.
Yep.
That is 4 to 7 game series, when everybody
28 games in a month.
Yeah,
it's a lot of hockey.
It's a lot of hockey. It's a lot of physical, and not just getting out there getting your cardio in either. As we all know, this is not ballet. This is you're getting bumped, you're getting crashed. Hockey is hockey.
Yeah,
when you go through. You're playing every other day or every third day for 6 weeks. There's no way that if he's dealing with some nagging, niggly little thing, that he's the only one.
No.
And there's got to be a bunch of guys that are like, my shoulder hurts, my knee hurts, my ankle's not feeling good, my wrist, my elbow, whatever it is. And then you add the pressure of this could be the last game of the season tonight. One side of that arena is looking at this could be the last game of the season tonight. And the other side is like, oh man, this could be the last game of the season tonight. And that it's different kinds of pressure because you want to end that series. One of my biggest pet peeves in all of sports is, they're going to drop they're going to drop this game so they can win it at home. No, there's absolutely nobody in the history of any competitive sport that have said we're going to drop a playoff game so we can do game 7 at home. Morons. But they're like, we're at home. We could win this at home. We could be out at South Beach in an hour with the cup and the champagne. The party bus is on standby. This club is, we've got the invitation from this club and this bar and all that. We can just go and do this. And on the other side, it's like, we need to bring this home. We can do this. This is the second year in a row.
Yeah.
This is the second year in a row we're here. I'm going home with that cup. We got to win 2 in a row. Let's do that. So the pressure on top of those injuries, it's got to be absolutely astounding to me. Like, I can't fathom it.
Yeah, not only do you have home team pressure in this series, I don't know how many people are out of the United States that only want Florida to win. I'm sure that's the case. But the Edmonton Oilers have every single solitary hockey fan in Canada waiting for them to deliver.
I know for a fact that's not 100% true, but I was saying earlier, there are some players that people that'll do that. But yeah, they're right now they're Canada's team. We've had this drought.
Yeah, the Reinhardts are Canadians and they're hoping for their kid. So cool on them.
Yeah, I just know a few people that are diehard Edmonton haters. On top of that, and there's also that school of thought of, Edmonton, not my team out. Well, whatever. But the fact is, this country, this is quote unquote our game. But as we discussed when we were talking the Four Nations Cup a few weeks ago, there's a lot of countries that can say that.
Mhm.
But we have this. We haven't had it back in Canada in a long time.
Yeah.
And for these Edmonton players, that's got to be something tickling the back of their mind, because it's almost impossible to get away from social media, especially if you end up doing media. As you're one of those guys that gets dragged out of the dressing room dripping with sweat, half naked. You've grabbed a towel on the way by, and you're just standing there dealing with it. The pressure. Then you look at your social media. I would hope that some of these guys are just like, you know what, my phone needs to just not. It's going on airplane mode for a while. But just the pressure of that, it's like, well, we're here for the second year in a row. The country's behind us. We have 98% of the country cheering for us. We got to, it's the rise of the Edmonton Dynasty Part 2, and just it's got to be brutal.
Yeah. Here's all us Canadian fans I think we've got to be hoping for basically an East versus West Canadian final Stanley Cup to get one.
Yeah, I mean, we had a shot at it.
I thought this year
didn't work out.
I thought that Toronto might be able to handle Florida. Florida wasn't playing that well,
to start off with,
towards the end of the season. And they didn't play well at all at the beginning of the season. So it goes to show you, if you got the team, you can slide for the first half and rest up for the second half. If you can make it into the playoffs, you're gonna, you have a Stanley Cup. I mean, LA did that years ago. They finished last in the playoff run. They made it as the Stanley Cup playoffs. For the 8th spot in the West, and went on to win the Stanley Cup easily. I think they beat somebody like 4-1 in the Stanley Cup final. So playoffs, oh God, you never know. You've got injuries, and you've got mental problems, and you've got, oh God, whatever. It's a hard cup to win. That's 28 games against teams that aren't a whole lot, either a little better than you or a little worse than you. Like, everybody's that close.
Yeah, and it is, and we've said it so many times, but it really does make a difference between the physicality of the sport, the body armor they wear, the equipment, and the speed they're going. Like, this is, and you talk on that, you're slingshotting this little hard rubber puck at each other, and this is not moving slow. This is something that, the physics of it are incredible.
The average NHL shots between 85 and 100 miles an hour. So
there you go. I mean, that's average.
Somebody's throwing a bullet at you at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, and then you also get a 230-pound guy coming at you at 40 miles an hour to knock you off of that puck.
Yeah, I'd like to have, I think I tried to work it out once, but just the kinetic energy involved in let's say 100, and most of the players are over 200 pounds nowadays. I would say they're closer to 215, 220. An object traveling at 40 miles an hour at 200 and, or an object at weight at 220 pounds traveling at 40 miles an hour. What is the impact numbers on that?
You know what? That sounds like
a viewers send that into me, because
that is something we're going to have to get into. I think that's a wonderful little off-season, the science behind it style thing. I'd like to get into that, because I remember watching the All-Star Game skills competitions, and a guy like Al MacInnis is putting up 120 mile an hour slap shot. And then you have to consider, is he going to be able to get that off 10 times a game? No, because he's able to step into it. He doesn't have to worry about distractions or defense or
Yeah.
anything else. He can step
Yeah.
into it, smash it in the net as hard as possible.
Yeah,
But
so it's down
the
to
one
110.
time, the one time in the month that he actually has the proper setup for that, then you go back to the poor goaltender standing there going,
No, don't feel bad for the goaltender. He's got all that equipment. Who you need to
I
feel
don't care
bad
how
for
much
that
equipment he
defenseman
has on.
standing in there with that little plastic sheet on front of his legs that
Fair.
that quite often that puck will break those plastic shin guards, and
Mhm.
especially in Al McGinnis's day, because the
Oh, yeah.
equipment wasn't quite as good as that. I mean,
Yeah.
again, equipment is so
I just
improved,
remember
but
Al
yeah.
had that repeated hardest slap shot in the league, and I
Yeah.
haven't seen a skills competition in here. Okay, we are just over an hour. I want to get your thoughts on this one last thing. We're going to switch completely out of the current on ice talent. We have our first trophy of the year has been announced for the NHL awards, and the Montreal Canadiens' Lane Hudson is our rookie of the year.
Oh,
This
wow,
is
but
the
he should be.
first
I've
time
watched
Montreal has
Montreal
had this
play
since
3
Ken
times
Dryden.
this year on
Yep.
TV, and he's an exceptional hockey player. He's an exceptional hockey player. And Connor Hellebuyck, good for him. He won the goaltender of the year, or the Vezina Trophy.
Mhm.
And yeah, no, he's an exceptional hockey player. There's some really, really exceptionally good young hockey players playing in the game right now, and I would love to see the wave when guys like Hughes and Hudson and Kale, what they're going to do in the next 10 years is going to be something that's outstanding. But you've got some pretty good young hockey players, that have come through the draft in the first couple of rounds in the last couple of years, that you can tell what a young hockey player is going to be in the future almost by his first year. Like there's been some exceptional hockey players. What's his name playing in I wanted to say San Diego. I didn't mean that. Goodness gracious. I'm sorry.
Out of Kentucky, Robert's saying that Lane has great stick skills. I mean, that's
he does.
Right.
He's got a great mind.
Canadians.
That's what these exceptional hockey players coming into the game now have. That's what they have above. They all train the same. They train harder. They're more physically fit, so they might be a little bit better in the physical game of strength or speed. But what they all do to the player is they have incredible mental strength, incredible mental focus for reading the game and being able to do the right thing at the right time. So I don't know who's teaching that. I tried to teach it years ago, but it never worked.
I don't know about
No,
that,
I've had some pretty good hockey players.
I think it's gotten a little more widespread these days.
Yeah.
Speed recognition, outstanding offensive talent. Yeah. Thank you, Robert, for chiming in.
Good. How'd it go, Robert?
That's fantastic. All right, so we're a little over an hour. It has flown by. I guess we'll be discussing how this turns out next week, and I'm just gonna go back to writing more lists of things to get into and do a little more research. I'll probably need a little more research to get into the science behind all this, but I agree. I think that's a fascinating.
I have an ex-player who is turning out to be a phenomenal developer, hockey developer. He's a kinesiologist that I sort of guided through from his minor hockey years, and that I followed a long time. I would love to get him on board because he can explain some of the science, not only physically, but I kind of introduced to him a part of being a better teacher would be to learn and a better player, because he was a good size, but he was never an exceptional skill level. And yet, he made it through college and a little bit of pro hockey and went back to university, became a kinesiologist. And, He works with a lot of NHL players in his hometown in Kelowna, and he does, and he travels back and forth from Vancouver to Kelowna, teaching young kids. And that's Andrew Wheeler, and I'll see if I can't push.
Yeah, I more than if you were going to reach out to people that it's a little easier
lazy,
for you.
I don't.
Random cold calls in this day and age are just not a thing. Robert has coming in, pulled the needle off the record with a Go Panthers.
Yeah.
Oof, buddy. Read the room.
Robert, I love that. I loved hearing that. It's I was always kind of a two-way kind of a coach. I always appreciated my my opponents probably more than I should have, but I appreciated my own kids. So there's I'm glad I have one shout out, and if you do win, then I won't like you at all.
there's a whole thing about one. You got to know your opponent, so you got to know which one and how to counter them, and also know who you're about to try and trade for.
Ooh.
Right?
Trades, Matt, that's a whole different thing. Trades are so hard because you study somebody and you think you know them and you bring them in and they don't like the situation, then you're wasted. You're oh boy, this guy's going to be
great.
Right down the tubes.
No, I definitely want to get into that as we start seeing these free agents, restricted and unrestricted.
Happy summer.
Yeah.
Has Vancouver made some deals already since they've been done this season?
I don't know.
I'm stuck up here in the north, so I don't get to hear a lot of that.
Yeah, no.
Normally, when I'm headed to the arena every day, I hear it all because the Canucks do some of their practice right at our arena, and I know a lot of their old timers and a lot of their current players. So I usually hear right away when something is about to happen or does happen, and I don't hear any of that anymore. I'm lost.
Everything's been pretty quiet, other than I think a couple of rumors around Hughes.
Oh,
but I'm not sure. Yeah, it's mostly rumors and hearsays. It sounds like if it's not Hughes, and it definitely sounds like, as you were saying, you can trade for somebody's like this. We need this right here. This will fill the exact hole we need on the ice. That's fantastic. We get them into the locker room, and it's just it's not a mesh. It's more of a sort of thing.
People hate leaving the friends. An NHL hockey player, any professional football player, baseball player, traded there. The locker room stays 90% the same. Except for that one player. The locker room can change 100%. So it's hard.
Yep. Well, I mean, this is something, again, it's a good off-season topic as we see these free agents and call-up.
You're going to make me work in the off-season? I mean, I'm not off now that... No, I love doing this.
You're retired. You made a living with your favorite hobby for a while. So... now that you're retired, you can just you can do it for free.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what it was. Robert got it. It's Brock Boser that they were.
That's who I thought it might be. They would be whistling around. It's not that I want to see Brock Boeser go, and I really don't, because he's probably one of the best spotty players in the NHL. The guy scores 6 goals in 2 games and then doesn't score another one for 14. So, and then when you need him, he's back there again with more. So, but I don't know how you solve that situation, because it's hard to lose his over this whole season output. So anyway, I should stop talking.
Yeah,
so
we'll get into this. We'll get into more stuff next week. We'll wrap this up. We'll start looking at things like the draft and maybe get into some of this trade talk or science if I have. No,
well, you got the NHL draft coming up pretty quick.
Yeah, and then we got the awards will be coming out, and everybody's gonna. Laundry's going to be changing, folks. The colors are going to switch. The people in the suits and ties are going to start switching up. The off season is only an off season for the fans. We don't get it on TV. Everybody else is still working. Sometimes it's just on their swing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there. Anything else? You got anything for us?
Just be great, because you can.